Hello and welcome back to the Good News.
I'm Doc.
And I'm TJ, and we are excited and delighted to have you join us for another action-packed episode of the Good News. Do we have action?
Yeah, we have action. You know how a long time ago Batman used to come on and say,
Pow!
Boom!
I've never heard any of that on the Good News. So maybe we're not action-packed, but we are filled with the Spirit of the Most High God.
Yeah,
and this week is no exception. So this week we've had been on the national stage for a shooting that was done at a local outpatient medical facility. And as I've watched it unfold, it's one of those things that you and I already have a plan for. We haven't been in close proximity to shootings before. We have learned that it don't matter if we're at the same mall, we need to be at the same place. We need to be in eyesight of each other. And it's unfortunate that we even have to think of that manner. But you just cannot leave home without one.
And you know, I think a lot of my early training probably kick in sometimes because whenever I go places, and I share, I guess not often, but I share it often enough, I'm always looking at the exits.
Yes.
I'm always looking at who's around. When I come into a building, I do a sweep with my eyes. And, you know, even like when I go to the gym, I walk in, the first thing I do is look up. Because I said, because, you know, I don't know why I always look up, I always look up. I look at the treadmills and all this stuff, look all around. Then I look all the way to the back where the weights are, and I do a quick visual because I always like knowing that about when I drive. When I'm at a stop sign or red light, I'm doing a 360. I'm looking. And you know, you call me
keep your head on a swivel.
You know, you call me nosy because even at home, I'm looking out the window. I'm looking at all the stuff that happened in the neighborhood and stuff. I like to know what's around me. I look at tag numbers on cars. I look at descriptions. And I'm always trying to and I think the reason is because you never know when recall might have to happen. And what happened this week in Atlanta, I know they weren't expecting that to happen. None of us was expecting that to happen. But you know, when you see stuff out of place, you know, see something, say something.
Right. And you, again, in our preparation, I know we say it all the time in worship. We say it all the time in our prayers that, Lord, you already know. We know that you have us covered. But prayer needs to be a part of our everything. And making sure that we are covering our families, covering everyone we know with the safety and security of God, because it's too common now.
And you know, there are certain things, I think, as you get older, you learn. Because I didn't know I was in a protective class. Most of my friends, all of us about the same age, and we all talk about how, oh man, I don't be outside in the dark no more. I don't go to the gas station with, you know, certain times. It's like, as you get older, you learn certain things. But even in learning that, life can still find a way to make things happen. So you have to be prepared.
It's funny when you said that, because I thought your protected class was going to be those that you know you got people praying for you. Because we know that your grandmother is still calling your name and call the name of all the grandchildren and the gaggle of greats.
And she taught me how to pray like that. That's the reason I call all the names in my prayer. Family, friends, people who, co-workers, sick, things like that. I'd say a lot of my prayers is calling names of visualizing the names of those who I'm praying for.
And as we were, watching the news and getting the updates, because the gunman wasn't immediately apprehended. And so they found him later on somewhere else. But just hearing the story of his mother, that he was at the doctor's office with her, and she was there receiving care, and then this happens, and she talked about his mental health and how it's always been a challenge and the things that the family has had to do. And it's just a nationwide tragedy, nearly on a daily basis behind these. And when you look at so many of them, it stems from mental health issues, and the way that we are handling that or failing to handle that is a nation as the body of Christ, as families, is still that stigma of not talking about it. And as we're in the season of watching and bringing attention on mental health, it's one of those things that the church really has to be the lead on, because no one else is doing it, because there's no funding for it anywhere anymore. And so it's really just become part of what we have to do.
And it's so unfortunate because, I guess I'm at an age where I remember when the government decided to cut funding for mental hospitals and close most of the mental hospitals and mental facilities. And, what was expected when you decided you'll close most of these mental, privatize them and things like that?
Did they think they had a vaccine and it had just been cured, that it was just going to go away?
Because I'm just thinking about growing up as a kid. I remember the 8th floor at Greater Hospital. I remember Milledgeville and some of the other places where they had mental health facilities to take care of people like that.
Mm-hmm.
They used to call them and I'm not trying to be funny when I say they used to call them the Nut House, the Looney Facility, the
Looney
Bin, and all those things. And now look at what's happening because we don't have these places.
Because we never did the education on it, or we wouldn't be calling it the Looney Bin and the Nut House, because it really is just something that we can take care of. We can manage it. It's just being unmanaged.
We used to have a place where people can go and get the help they need and things like that.
Yes.
And now society seems to be thinking that this Joe citizens could take care of mental health family members. And it's just not, it don't happen like that.
And we're not equipped, but that doesn't mean we have to remain unequipped. And so you have always done a really good job of finding resources for the church on different things, with talking about sex in the church and things that the church just seems to want to gloss over. You've always been really good at making sure that we have those resources, and mental health is no different.
And like I say about sales, maybe mental health needs to be curriculum from K through 12.
It really does.
Because we're in a society now that it's not going to go away. We got to deal with people like this. And especially when people have, and we just talking about people with mental health. We ain't talking about this people who don't have it, who lose jobs, lose families.
Behavior.
And things could happen. And all of a sudden, someone who didn't have visible mental issues now have them.
And if we haven't learned anything else from COVID, we've learned that how tenuous we are each in society, and how much stress we can handle. We all have a certain level of stress that we can operate normally with, and when it gets too much, it becomes too much.
And we have to pray. We have to seek the Lord often, constantly, and we have to do it in faith.
That's it.
So let's pray for our families, our communities in faith. Pray for the family of the victims that was shot here at the mental facility. Pray for the family of the victim. What we call that person? The accuser. Perpetrator. He has family right now who's suffering as well, and he needs help. So, let's not point fingers per se, but let's come together and hug one another and encourage one another. And hopefully we can get through this in a way that would be profitable to all of us.
Yeah. I think what we find often in the church is we get ready to disciple others. We can discern their mental state. And it's not as easy to do on Instagram. It really comes from our relationships, the conversations that we have with people each and every day, and being willing to get into it with them, being willing, being open.
That's
it
the
really
hard
is.
part.
It really is.
Because we know what we should be doing, but taking that step, what did Paul say? I believe, but help my unbelief. I want to do it, but help me not want to do it. Help me don't want to do it, or something like that.
Right.
Or not doing it.
Exactly. And so it's so interesting because we had talked about this topic during the week as things were playing out. And then you come with your message today that you gave us from the first chapter of the book of Esther, where we see, again, the impact of what society can do. The alcohol abuse, the abuse of power, all of these things, they impact our mental capacity. And the title of your message?
Married to a Clown.
Married to a Clown. Yeah.
And it's interesting thinking about the whole scenario it's the book of Esther, and it's interesting that whole book, how Esther and Vashti start out as being the main characters, but by the time you get to the end, neither one of them the main character.
Yeah.
And what's so funny about this whole thing is this sermon was a struggle for me.
Yeah.
It was struggle in preparing it, and it was a struggle in delivering it, because I like to preach from my strength.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't a strength sermon at all today. And it was a sermon that I'm passionate about and I care about, but it's not one that I have the strength where I deliver the message on, because I really never preach women say stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's important that we as men share these messages, no matter how hard they are, because really it points a lot of things, not only to us personally, but who we are as a group of people, as men.
Really.
And nobody don't want to be the not hero of the story, but there will be some stories where you're not the hero. Mm-hmm. And in this particular story, men, and in my delivery of it, black men, we're definitely one of the hero of this message.
Mm-hmm.
And, not that I wanted to beat on black men, because I don't. I'm a black man. But we got to do better when it comes to what we expect of our women, what we want our women to be, and how we want them to be, and what we need to do in reference to making that happen. And I know that as a male, we are flawed. We make a lot of errors, mistakes, and do things that just sometimes seem stupid, which that was one of the words instead of clown. But I had stupid, I had fool, I had imbecile, I had all these other words. And I said, well, for the benefit of those who may hear this, who may not know the full context, then say, I think the Holy Spirit gave me the word the clown instead.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And it's so interesting that you point out that the adjective most commonly attributed to black women is strong,
angry,
loud, angry, all of those things, as if they are mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
I mean, we're angry because of all the weight that we've had to carry.
Yeah. And I don't know if someone told you to carry the weight as women. You didn't see no option of the weight being carried, so you picked up the mantle and carried it. Mm-hmm. But I wonder who told the black woman to be the one to do it, though, out of all the other people who could have been carrying stuff. Mm-hmm.
And it's funny you say that we picked up the weight. Mm-hmm. I can't remember what message it was, but I talked about accidental shoplifting. Mm-hmm. Where you pick up something at the grocery store, you went in for 2 or 3 things, you tucked it under your arm, and you done went and shopped, and now you got all this stuff that you're carrying, and you check out with the stuff that's in your hand, and you forget to pay for the thing that you took. And that's the way we do with so much weight that we carry. We will tuck it under our arms and forget that we're even carrying
Don't even feel it.
Mm-hmm. And
and
just become a part of who we are.
I don't know how that happened and why, and I think until we rectify this situation, our community will always be what it is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it takes women, and I understand that a lot of African American women are perfectionists because of your skill sets and your gifts, but it's okay to muddle. It's okay for things to not always be right. Yeah. It's okay for things to not always look the best. Mm-hmm. It's okay for things to look disheveled, or what's the word? It's okay. Mm-hmm. Life will still go. There will still be air to breathe, and there will still be breath to exhale.
Yeah,
we'll still inhale and exhale. Life will still go on. But I don't know how we got to this point, and I'm sure it's entrenched in our upbringing, going all the way back through slavery and all that stuff. But
and it's as you broke down the text of the message, Vashti is married to King Xerxes, and they are celebrating. And you pointed out that this wasn't just a regular celebration. It's gone on for 180 days. That's 6 months, half the year.
Yeah.
They've been drinking and laying around. I don't know. I'm glad they weren't at war, because they would have all been killed in the palace. Because they all in the palace having a party. for months.
You know, that was just so much. And I really should have did. This should have been a Bible study teaching,
Right.
a series. Because, you know, how drunk can you get partying for 180 days, and then the last 7 was a turn up? You know, I'm like,
You know, it was probably the first time the women had some rest.
no, they partying too.
Yeah, but their party, I'm sure, looked a whole lot different than what the men were doing.
They probably had chicken and waffles and some tatas and some what all this fast stuff y'all have with y'all brunches and stuff.
They slept. That's what they was doing.
And Xerxes had hen dog and some wings.
They were waking up at noon and going to bed at 8 because they've never had that opportunity before.
Party celebration.
Yeah.
And they were celebrating because they just won a war, and that was a perfect time for somebody to come and take advantage of them. They all drunk over there in that country. He had 7 provinces and everything. You know, there was a lot of problematic stuff in that whole text.
Yes.
But the crux of it was, it just bothers me to see how strong black women feel like they have to be, and they are, and it shouldn't be. But I know things wouldn't happen if they wouldn't have done it, but sometimes it's okay for things not to happen.
Right. And it's important as we go through that text to realize that no is a complete sentence.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say no.
And you know, and it's just so much about that. Like, my whole understanding of that whole set of scriptures is, I'm picturing a harem. You know, Queen Vashti was probably selected from a harem to become queen, just like they selected Esther to become a queen from the harem and everything. So it's like all these strip club dancers and stuff, and who's gonna be diamond, you know, and all this stuff here. And, you know, and I bet they probably, oh, she shouldn't have did that. I'll be the queen. I'll be the queen. I just jocking to be the next queen and everything. Instead of, we will come together. You won't get a queen now.
Yeah.
None of us gonna be a queen, and we all go. None of y'all husbands go do, like, what was it, Oedipus Rex? Was it Oedipus? Where all the women withheld themselves because of the men going off the wall?
Oh no, that was the other one they did, and
not Oedipus, Lysistrata.
Yeah, Lysistrata.
Yeah. So you know, it just, we have to realize women have power, and if women were to say, we gonna go and strike, we ain't cleaning, we ain't cooking, we ain't wearing certain things, we go do this until y'all start doing some of the things that y'all need to do.
Yeah.
Things will change. Women have the power to do that. And I'm not trying to start a revolt or nothing like that. And I'm not trying to get men upset with women and women upset with men, but we got to get better at this. God deserves us being the right people that He created us to be, so people can see what we're doing and want to be servants of God just like we are.
And it's important when we look at the, when we just juxtapose what happened when Vashti was queen versus what happened when Esther was queen. And that our strength, it can be like what we've been forced to be, which is what Vashti demonstrates, that we have to take control, we have to say no, we have to be brash sometimes, we have to be loud sometimes, but we can also be Esther. And change the whole trajectory of a kingdom and of a king.
You just gave me a thought. Who was Vashti's Mordecai?
Yeah.
Why she didn't have a male to stand up for her? Like, well, not to say, I know it's different settings and all that stuff when Mordecai didn't stand up for Esther.
I know, I'm saying, pressing her to do what needed to be done.
You know, it just...
But the approach, I think, is the difference. And the way that Vashti approached the king with, as a queen.
Yeah.
And Esther being a queen after, but handling things differently.
And you know, the thing too is, there are so many teaching points in this.
Yeah.
You know, husbands, don't get too drunk while you doing stuff, you know. Because if you married to a melanated woman, you get that drunk and try to get her to come in there and dance in front of your friends when your friends will go home with her. You know, it's just so much stuff. Just a lot of stuff.
A comedy of errors.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
And it started with a celebration of a victory.
Yeah.
And then, let's keep the party going. Let's move the party to somewhere else. And
6 months. That's amazing.
a half a year party. How much liquor did they have in that community?
Hey.
Who's the tower of the world of beverages in that community? You know, That's a lot
Yeah.
of liquor to be poured.
And can you imagine? This is just the bad decision that had impact outside the room. I'm sure there were a lot of bad decisions being made inside as well.
Imagine how much money was made. Because if they were doing all that part, there's probably some gambling going on and some other stuff going on. And
Yeah. And that's my phrase, don't make a permanent decision in a temporary situation. I think a lot of that happened.
Another thought. The men in one party, the women in another party. So did the men have other women dancers and all this stuff in their party? And did the women have male dancers?
I've never seen a man party without women.
So if all the other women were with Vashti, what women were with Xerxes and his friends in the party?
I'm going to say the unmarried ones. The married ones were with the queen, the wives of the noblemen.
But you're telling me they were having a first lady convention with the queen, and the strippers were with the kings, the guys and stuff at their party.
Divide and conquer.
It's just so much man, that should be a podcast talking about that.
Yes, but your message encouraged us that even though there is weight on the shoulders of Black women, there is the same, if not more, weight on the shoulders of Black men.
Yeah.
And it's we can't continue to be in opposition to one another if we're ever gonna build each other up.
Life is hard when two like people working for a like goal and like focus. Life is hard on that. So imagine how it is when people not.
Exactly. All right. Well, I hope that you guys will tune in and watch the entire message. It'll be linked down below. And we do want to thank you for taking just a moment of your Sunday or whatever day it is that you're watching the good news and sharing with us, because we love talking about the good news of Jesus.
Amen.
So until we are together again.
Good day and good night.
Now that's good news. We hope we'll see you next week.